Today we gather not only to celebrate the freedom of the press, but also to recognize the irreplaceable role that journalists and media institutions continue to play in strengthening our democracy, information of citizens, and giving voice to the unheard. This year's theme, Safeguarding Press Credibility Amidst Rising Misinformation, reminds us that the press is more than a recorder of events. It is a guide, a watchdog, and at times a conscience to our society. As we reflect on this theme, we are reminded of the responsibilities that rest on every journalist, soldiers, and trust that the public places on the media each day. Thank you all for being here to commemorate this important day. Now we shall begin the program. I will give time for the presidential speech. You may take your time.
DPRO and his colleagues, members of the press and fellow journalists. Today we celebrate National Press Day, a testament to the power of free and fearless press. As the president of the Dimapur Press Club, I am honored to recognize the tireless efforts of journalists who bring truth to light and stand committed to upholding journalistic integrity and amplifying voices that matter. As we mark this important day, let's continue to strive for excellence in journalism and promoting fact-based reporting. Here's to another year of impactful storytelling and standing up for the truth. Thank you and happy National Press Day to you all.
Giving me this opportunity to share a few of my doubts regarding how to safeguard press credibility amidst rising misinformation. And I feel that this particular theme given by the Press Council of India is very relevant today. While dealing with the points, today I wish to take us together into another, similar but little bit detour from the exact theme itself. As we gather together here to reflect on one of the single most important thing that we possess. It is not the printing presses, it's not our digital platform, nor the number of clicks that we achieve. However, for us, it is the credibility as a professional, as a profession, and as an industry. And during the last few years, we have seen how profoundly the environment has changed, the news environment, That is, today, on a single screen, the public encounters everything. That is, news report, political messaging, rumors, entertainment clips, promotional content, all roll into one. And often it all appears in similar format. The line has been blurred between what is news and what is not. Right? In such a situation, our responsibility to remain credible, fair, transparent, and accurate has become more urgent than ever. Therefore, today our theme, safeguarding press credibility amidst rising misinformation, demand from us an urgent honesty of dealing with issues that surround us. This is not merely an academic assertion, I would argue, but it is the question of professional survival of all of us. So, as stated earlier, credibility is the anchor of our profession, and it allows the public to trust us even when the truth is difficult, and even when the facts are very uncomfortable, right? And because a lapse on our part on a news organization by an outlet could affect institutions, communities, and the public at large. So if we look from while dealing with the credibility of our provisions, I would argue that we first should look inwardly. And how do we deal with that? So before we talk about external threats, we must confront our internal issues. That is the need for every newsroom to be clear about who we are and how we operate. This is central to the credibility. Today, anyone can create a badge, a website, and a digital outlet, and one of the results is that there is visibility without accountability, right? Many of the platforms, unregulated platforms have emerged. We don't know how to categorize them also at times. And if we look at the many new digital outlets that is coming up, they don't have, for example, a clear-cut editorial policy, or even many lacks a website, or even if they operate on Facebook page or on YouTube, they don't have a clear about us section, right? The public see the content, but does not see the institution behind the news. So that is a very critical issue. And this gap is not, I should say, limited to only the new entrants alone. Even with the so-called legacy media and mainstream traditional media also are at fault on this side. Now, but I am being a little bit biased here to use a name, but some outlet has, I should say, done a commendable job in, for example, if you go to this one of the new digital platform that is Nagaland Tribune. If you go to their website, they have a clear about us section, a clear privacy policy, and about who are operating, who are behind the news. So apart from just visibility, we should also know who are behind the news. So such practice, I feel, should be the norm, not an exception. The second issue is, apart from related with transparency, the second issue that I wish to cover is a little bit sensitive, but it's I find it quite relevant. That is the second topic that deserves very careful and honest discussion. That is the blurring of editorial and commercial lines, especially the reported practice of money for coverage. Right? I'm not referring to this to a favorable coverage. You're paying money to do a favorable coverage, or reporters taking money for a favorable practice. But I mean just coverage, just for coverage itself. Right? For example, a group of organizations celebrating Silver Jubilee, an organization having an annual event, releasing a souvenir, a department hosting a function. So they want visibility, and if we are asking kind of payment for that coverage, it's sort of a win-win situation for both the organizer as well as the outlet. However, there are deeper implications for this, right? And what is called, this is as structural misinformation. I qualify the term by saying that this is not misinformation as the conventional understanding of misinformation, not because the report is false, but because the public is misled about why it was published, right? When public see a news report about an event, they naturally assume that it was selected because it was newsworthy. And if payment is involved and undisclosed, this assumption becomes misleading. it creates a subtle misinformation, structural misinformation, not because the story is false, because the audience misunderstands the basis of its selection. I want to stress here that I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, right? Financial pressures are real, and in a state like ours, where other forms of advertisement is quite less, the pressure is more acute. Organizations also pursue visibility very actively. Every outlet needs revenue, and these are the realities we understand. But when basic journalistic duty becomes, even unintentionally, a service for hire, it undermines public trust. Therefore, our professions and journalists as such should not be used as a service for hire. Other issues included search of unregulated digital platform, pursuit of speed over accuracy, sensationalism and spectacle, right? And ethical inconsistencies. On ethical inconsistencies, if we look back, it's about an unlabeled sponsored content, right? Commentary mixed with reporting. And sometimes we also does not acknowledge mistakes, which is essential part of our profession. And this might seem minor, but this will gradually erode trust in us. And the public might not be aware about what is happening behind it. But as it gradually builds up, suddenly the credibility that we have will disappear, because one day they will say, oh, pay them something and they will come and cover. Like that. Our credibility becomes a sort of commercialized, right? So that is the two internal issues that we need to confront with while dealing with this issue of misinformation. Another external thing is that the expanding misinformation and artificial intelligence. Now, on top of this, we face unprecedented challenge of misinformation accelerated by technologies, AI-generated images, altered videos, voice clone, synthetic media, right? And fabricated text that can be generated within minutes, right? In our context, where the issue of identity, land, law and order are very sensitive, if such spread with unchecked, it can cause real harm. So AI is not the enemy, but it magnifies our weaknesses. If verification is weak, AI will amplify the damage. If editorial boundaries are blurred, AI will exploit the confusion. If public cannot distinguish journalism from AI, will feed that uncertainty. And it's not just the content, it also how honest we are using AI technology also. Because as we all know, AI has become a sort of indispensable tools for us also. So how do we use it? Does we have an AI policy in our own organization? How do we use AI ethically? That is one of the emerging issues that is coming up in this year. So what are some of the way forward we could do, or practical steps we can take to tackle the challenges that was listed here? One could be strengthening our internal transparency. For example, publish a clear, or I feel that every outlet that called itself a news outlet or otherwise should have a clear-cut Facebook page or social media page or a website where there is certain information about who the operators are. About Us section, with ownership, editorial leadership, objectives, or a privacy policy, mission statement as such. We also need to acknowledge and correct mistake publicly and promptly. And second, third is that separate editorial and commercial function, ensure coverage decision remain independent of financial arrangement, right? And related to that, how do we adopt ethical guidelines for even coverage? One could, the ethical solution is, I would argue, is simple and universal. Bad promotional content, sponsorship, partnership, or revenue-linked content must be clearly labeled as advertisement, sponsored features, or advertorial. Right? Maintain a separate look for sponsored content, especially on website. That applies both for mainstream media as well as the traditional media, right? If an organization wants visibility, encourage them or teach them or make them aware that they can send press releases or other forms of statement regarding their event. And most importantly, apply public interest test when deciding what to cover. That is, news, and if it is a newsworthy event, we should cover them for free, not for some arrangement. Right? Thirdly, we should clarify editorial boundaries. Right? We must distinguish between what is news and what is opinion, analysis and advocacy, editorial content and commercial content. And disclosure, in my way, I would say that disclosure protects both the profession and the public. So we remain credible, and the public also know from where or what kind of information they are getting. And it allows us to maintain our dignity as journalists and keep editorial decision independent from any external interference. On verification, we should also slow down when needed, double-check sensitive claim, use verification tools, and also the journalists must be equipped to identify manipulated media, and we as a journalist ourselves should also try to constantly reskill ourselves to meet the emerging challenges. Lastly, as a press body, I think we should also collaborate, and this was discussed during the last Morong lecture also. Can we have a common charter for Nagaland for ethical practices in our profession? Can we have a voluntary transparency audit? Can we conduct collaborative media literacy programs? Right? Because media literacy is also quite important. I mean, and we need to make people aware about what is news and what is not, right? And can we have a collective standard to help the entire profession free, profession rise? And I should also feel that even if we don't collaborate with others, the TPC should also come up with a sort of guidelines on how we operate, or ethical guidelines on reportage and sort of PCI norms of journalistic ethics, right? And last, engage with the public. A media literate public is our best ally against misinformation. So let us invest time in awareness program, fact-checking workshop, and simple explainer in our writings as well as in our videos. Right? To conclude, credibility is not preserved through slogan, but it is preserved through telepractice. In the stories we verify, the line we refuse to cross, the disclosure we make, and the correction we issue. We are operating in a very challenging situation, but this also gives an opportunity to raise our standard collectively and remind public that journalism at its best stands for fairness, truth, and accountability. On this National Press Day, let us commit, I urge everyone to commit ourselves to strengthening our profession, not by pointing fingers at each other, but by looking honestly at our practices and by building ecosystem where credibility is non-negotiable. Thank you very much for your time.
Special occasion of National Press Day, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each one of you for being a part of today's program. My sincere thanks to our team speaker for taking out your valuable time to be with us today. We truly appreciate your presence and the valuable thoughts you have shared with us. A big thank you to our organizer and fellow colleagues for planning and supporting this program. A warm thank you to everyone behind the scene for your dedication and for your hard work. Once again, thank you all for making this National Press Day celebration a meaningful and successful one. Thank you.